Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Brandon Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today's episode, we got a good one. We got a topic that's very, very important. It's 5 pricing pitfalls to avoid. Kind of a mouthful for me. I'm going to be honest with you. That's the first time I said that out loud. But I have an amazing guest here. We're going to talk about this and how you can avoid these pricing pitfalls in your business. James Wilton, welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Oh, great to be here, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
So I know we talked briefly before recording, and I know you specialize in SaaS companies and startups, but I think, and I want to hear your perspective too, this is a conversation that really any business owner can tune into and listen to, because pricing pitfalls are not exclusive to those types of businesses. Am I right?
I know, that's absolutely right. Exactly. I mean, pricing is a great way to be able to accelerate your growth. It helps you capture more value. But I think what a lot of people don't understand about your pricing strategy is it also can help you boost your volume as well. There are decisions that you can make that can make your pricing strategy easier to digest, to engage with. So it affects the bottom line, but it often affects the top line and the volume as well. And I would say that good pricing is good pricing. There are nuances of doing pricing across different industry segments, but generally the principles that you follow to get to that good pricing is going to be very consistent.
Yeah, I love that. And you use the word strategy, which I think is so important. And obviously good practice is good practice, like you said. So this is just to be clear, because I hear a lot of content put out on the internet. This is not a tactic. This is a strategy that can be adapted for wherever you find yourself in business using these principles. So James, that being said, I'm excited to dive in here. Where do you, when you're consulting with a business, where do you usually start with the pricing conversation? Do they have products and they're in business already, or are we pricing new products, or both?
Yeah, both really. I would say the vast majority of the companies that I work with usually have some form of pricing strategy already. They might have some packages. They might scale their pricing in a certain way, and they've set price levels. But a lot of the times they didn't put a lot of thought into it when they were doing that. So they have something, but if it's the right thing for them, it's probably the right thing by chance, really. So there's really an opportunity to go in and really think strategically about this and try to understand what is the right pricing strategy for them. And I'll say that a lot of companies, still, even today, where pricing is getting a lot more known now, but there's still a lot of companies and people who think when they hear the word pricing, they think, what's the price tag on this particular item, right? How much am I charging for it? And that is an important component of it, but it's not the whole thing. It's really those structural choices that make the difference between a good pricing strategy and a bad pricing strategy. And actually, a better pricing structure can help you get the price level that you're aspiring for, even if you weren't able to get it with the previous price structure.
Do you run into a lot, I saw what the local competition was doing, or I saw what everyone else was doing in my industry, and I stuck a pin in the middle. Is that one of the 5 common pitfalls?
That is the first one, Brandon.
Exactly.
No, it is. And that's the first big pitfall that I see companies fall into when they start building pricing strategies, is they just look at their competition and they copy them. And I understand where that comes from, right? Because a lot of times when a company's building their first pricing strategy, they most of the time don't have anybody on their team who's seasoned in pricing strategy, knows how to think about it. So they tend to think of pricing as being like, this is something I have to arrive at, but it's not probably the first thing that they're thinking about, and they're not putting a ton of thought and effort into it. There's also a perception, I think, that there's a right way and a wrong way to price in any industry segment, and therefore, if you look at any particular segment that you're going to be in, you look at the way that your competitors are charging. They've probably got the right system, so you just do the same thing as them and adjust your price level. But that is completely wrong. It is not the right way to think about it, right? I will say that the probably the most important thing for you to think of when you're building your pricing strategy is actually your objectives. What are you trying to achieve? Because if you've got two companies who are in the same space with the same product, same customers, everything is the same apart from the fact that they're trying to achieve different things, the right pricing strategy for them is going to be completely different in those two circumstances. And a lot of newer companies out there are really trying to think about, let's get a lot of customers, let's get them in at a reasonable price point, but let's try to ramp up their price levels over time and grow. Whereas a lot of maturer companies are really, they've done a lot of their product development, they're very established, they're really far more focused on revenue maximization and profit maximization right at the time then. So if you copy what they're doing, you're going to be copying the pricing strategy of a company who's trying to achieve completely different things from you. And your pricing strategy is going to be good at achieving that, but it's not going to be very good at achieving the things that you want to be achieving. So, right out of the gate, first thing is you really want to be thinking about, what are the most important things that my business is trying to achieve? What's the relative importance of those? And then when you start to make your pricing strategy choices, you can think about which ones of those objectives you are serving or deprioritizing in those choices. Make sure you end up something that on balance is going to help you achieve everything that you want to achieve.
Yeah, I love that explanation, and it popped into my head while you were explaining it. It's kind of like gas station pricing. If you think about it, it's like, all right, well, what are all the other gas stations doing around here? And I need to be either the lowest or right in the middle, so I have a fighting chance, right? And then you're in the Northeast. I'm from the Northeast. I thought of Wawa. Do you have Wawas by you?
No, we don't, but I'm very familiar with them. My wife used to live in Princeton for a while.
Oh, okay. So then she knows. She knows it's an experience. It's not a gas station first and foremost.
Exactly.
But I thought of that because I'm like, they were never the lowest price, at least the ones that I would go to. But you go there because you're going for something more than gas. You go to the convenience store or whatever it is, and they've clearly put intention into their pricing. There could be 4 other gas stations on the same corner, and they would be significantly higher, but always there would be lines at Wawa.
Yep,
and
exactly.
it's everything you're saying, right? They're putting intention behind the strategy of their pricing, and the other 3 or 4 gas stations just want it to be the lowest price.
Exactly. Actually, I'd say even beyond that, Brandon, I'd say like they are. Well, I have a better like understanding of their value, right? Because there's actually a very good book out there which I'd advise anybody to read, which is called Negotiating with Backbone by Reed Holden. It's a pricing book, and it talks a lot about different buyers. And one of the things that Reed talks about in this book is the fact that there are value buyers, right, who really want the best quality product that they can get. There are relationship buyers who aren't so interested in the product, but they really want a good, strong relationship with whoever they're buying for. There are price buyers who are literally only interested in getting the best price that they possibly can for whatever it is that they're buying. And then there are poker players, right, who are actually value buyers or relationship buyers, but they try to convince you that they're price buyers in order to get a lower price through the deals. But anyway, point being that even with something that's a commodity like gas, right? We think of as just gas being very undifferentiated. You get gas from here or gas from there. It's the same gas. So you'd think that everybody would be a price buyer, but that's not actually the case, right? Even in these commodity markets, only about a third of buyers are actually price buyers. The rest of them are going to be value buyers or relationship buyers. And I think what Wawa have tapped into there is that there is, the product is not just the gas, right? The product is the experience around the gas and the and everything else. So people will pay more for that experience. So just because you've got something which you might see as a commodity doesn't mean it necessarily is in your customer's eyes, and there might be opportunity to charge more than what your customers are paying for something quite similar.
Yeah, interesting stat with the when you said 1/3, even in a commodity market, 1/3 of buyers are price buyers. I was not aware of that, but that's actually really interesting. Anyway, let's dive into some more pitfalls here. That was kind of the big one, the first one. What else do you got?
Yeah, absolutely. So number 1 was copying the competitors. Number 2 is doing your pricing inside out, as we say. So like doing it inside out means we, the company, the vendor, are going to be like pricing based on what we think is important to customers and what we think the customer will be willing to pay. Because we know our product really well, right? We feel like we understand this stuff and we'll make good decisions there. I will tell you that even if you're in a company that's, that is very attuned to the market, the chance that you have an exactly correct read on what's most important to your customers and how they think about value across different things, it's really low. The chances are. So if you're not getting direct customer feedback and getting them to tell you what they value, getting them to tell you what they'd be willing to pay for services of different types, getting them to tell you how they would prefer to buy, then you're going to make mistakes. And it means that you're going to build a pricing strategy which is suboptimal, right? And it's going to prevent you from capturing all of that value. So that's the second thing is, right, thinking that we don't need to go out and get that customer feedback. We're just going to do it without it. I mean, really what all companies should be doing, you don't have to go overboard here. You don't have to launch an enormous survey and do a ton, but getting some voice of the customer to inform the way that you price is something that you will never regret. I mean, you end up with a pricing strategy that's going to be much more effective.
I like that. That obviously has to spill over into marketing of the product too, right? Because if you're talking about the things that only you care about, you're going to decrease the number of buyers because your potential market doesn't care about those same things.
Exactly right. And also, you think about a product, right? There's always going to be a certain amount of actual value that your product delivers to a particular customer, right? But the thing is, in pricing, actual value doesn't matter that much, right? What really does matter is the perceived value, which is the amount of value that the buyer can see. And if you're talking about the product in a way that doesn't resonate with what they're interested in, you're not going to say the things that are going to make them be willing to pay something closer to the actual value. And right out of the gate, you're going to be truncating the amount of value that you could be capturing from that customer.
Yeah, I like that. It's a good perspective. All right, what's number 3?
Number 3 is this is very much a SaaS and tech one, particularly in the B2B space, but it's defaulting to per seat pricing. Right? You've probably seen a lot of these SaaS products online that it's very common to charge in a license-based model, right? Depending on how many users you have on my platform, I'm going to scale the price based on that. And it's a real hang-up from the old days of software, right? When we used to install software on desktops and you'd pay for the number of CDs or DVDs that you would put on there. And look, sometimes per seat is the right metric, right? Sometimes value does scale with the amount of people who are using it. But I think particularly today, that's becoming less and less frequently the case, right? There are often other metrics which more accurately, scale with the value that the customer receives. That's particularly true in now when we have automation and AI and everything. Like one user can do the job of many people. So, whereas previously a company of a certain type and size who's buying your product might have bought 5 user licenses, maybe now they can get away with just one. And if you're only charging them for one, unless you're adjusting your price level for that, you're probably going to be undercharging them. And the chances are that it's also not going to be a metric that's very good for growing over time, right? You would ideally love to set your price for your product by something that's going to naturally grow as the customer improves their experience and gets more and more value. But again, with automation, with AI, chances are they're going to buy all the licenses they would ever need right on the first day, and over time they may actually get more efficient and reduce that number. So you lose your ability to do it. So it's not that there's any particular metric that you should be picking, but you should really be thinking about, how does my product create value for my customer? What metric really scales with the amount of value that they will actually get, or metrics in cases, it doesn't always have to be one. And let's set price based on that. And there are many other criteria that you can use to find the exact optimum one, but starting with value and thinking about that is going to set you off on the right foot.
I love that. I might be a little bit biased because I am the COO of a SaaS company. So this is obviously a very relevant conversation for me. But let's use an example that probably most of the listeners are familiar with. And I actually just saw a blog post on your website about this very thing. Canva, and it's an experience that we just had. So I want to unpack what this could look like for them. We had a situation with our marketing team where they needed Canva licenses for the team, and they were like, I mean, we're not going to use it a ton. We probably need one for our CMO. We need one for the team underneath her, and then a generic account for the rest of the company that we could all log into as needed. So 3 Canva accounts, and that's going to get us pretty far. what's another metric that Canva could be leveraging in order to get more money from us in particular, but all their clients that are not tied to licenses?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they have to really think about the way that you guys create value for yourselves by using the product, right? So if you're using, let's say, I imagine you might be using, Canva for your marketing efforts, say, Brandon, right?
Yep.
It might be that, the number of distinct sort of projects you have going on at any time is an indication of how much value that you are getting through Canva. Or it might be like the amount of, like, if you want to go even more output based, like the amount of these kind of design projects that result in being posted will really dictate, how much value you actually got out of it. Now, as I said before, there's other considerations here, right? Like it might be very difficult for Canva to actually figure out which of those projects result in something that you actually post or not. So that may not be a viable thing for them. But I'd say that line of thinking in terms of projects and like what you're doing and, how much stuff the users that you have there are actually creating is going to be more of an indication of the amount of value that you're getting. And if they were pricing on that basis rather than pricing on users, right? The amount of work that you guys need to do is not going to decrease by the amount of users that you put in there, right? You're just going to try to funnel more stuff through the same amount of users. So tying it to that metric then prevents them from just saying, let's reduce our pricing by just squeezing down our number of users. And if anything, actually, it probably encourages you to get more projects and build it over time, because now there's going to be no restrictions. You can get everybody in your company using Canva if you want to. They're probably going to get more familiar with it. They're going to be more likely to do more work with it, and those numbers of projects come up. So again, I'm not saying that projects specifically is the right thing to be setting price now, but I think something which more equates to the way that you get value and the output that you're trying to create is the right way of thinking for them.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes complete sense. And there's probably 100 different things Canva could do. I like that you're opening the door to this conversation though, because we've all had this scenario where you buy, like you said, you buy the CD and you can only upload it to one desktop or have it in use at one time.
Yep.
And now we're seeing that with software these days, and it's a monthly subscription, and people are finding ways around it. Like you said, AI, people becoming more efficient. For us, the example is there's no way two people are going to be using it at the same time for the multiple seat license. So why would we pay for two of them? Yeah. And this is just, it's the way we need to go. But I appreciate you opening the door of more value focused pricing and that sort of a strategy, because it's much more scalable and it's better for your customers too. They're going to respect you more and probably spend more money because of this, if I had to guess.
Yep.
So we have only scratched the surface. That was 3 of 5 tips. We're going to leave the audience on a cliffhanger here, but the great news is you can help them understand what those other 2 pitfalls are. And if someone did want to reach out or learn more about this, take a deep dive into their pricing strategy, where's the best place for them to go? Yeah,
absolutely. So probably the best place right now would be the website for my book, Capturing Value. So capturingvalue.com. The book really, it goes into SaaS pricing specifically and talks about all the things that you need to think about, the decisions you need to make if you were to build a pricing strategy. So a lot of these things that we're talking about, Brandon, are going to be covered in a lot of detail in that book. You'll get snippets on the website as well.
I love it. James, thank you so much for that. And everything, wherever you're watching, listening, all the links, the websites, the book link down below in the show notes, so you can go check those out. James, thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
For those of you watching and listening, like I said, everything's down below. Go check it out, but make sure you subscribe. We want to keep putting out 5 episodes a week to help you build a more harmonious business and life. So subscribe, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow on Harmonious at Lunch.